At Tagai State College, we have a student services team that is working across 49,000 square kilometres, 17 campuses. Adding to that complexity, we have a high turnover of teaching staff and often a transient student population. To put an effective wraparound student services system in place, we needed to make sure that we were able to address each of those contextual factors. What we came up with was a system called Students Educationally at Risk System, with the acronym being STEARS, and that is designed to work across 3 layers. The first layer is at a campus level, and that's called CEARS, Campus Educationally at Risk Students. That level is about the campus addressing the needs of their students through a team and committee, which is usually made up of the teaching staff, run by the head of campus. The teachers become the case managers. They identify the students at risk, they design and implement interventions, and they monitor student progress. The next layer of the STEARS system is SPEARS, which is another acronym standing for Specialist Educationally at Risk Students, and that's about the specialist team or the student services team providing complex case management to students at risk. For those students who are Tier 3, they have a higher level of need and they require more expert intervention. The final layer of the STEARS system is TEARS, which stands for Tagai Educationally at Risk Students. That layer of the system is about the senior head of campus inclusive practices working with the executive team to address gaps in service delivery and identify any strategic changes we need to make to address student need. Our job as educators is to ensure that students are learning. For some students, there are a number of barriers that may impact on their ability to learn, and that could be poor attendance, it could be a learning difficulty, a disability or suspected disability, social emotional wellbeing concern, the child may be displaying challenging behaviours, or the child may be gifted and talented and underperforming. It's anything that impacts on a child's ability to access and participate in the curriculum. If a teacher needs to refer a student to their campus CEARS committee, they do a referral on one school using the referral wizard. Then they use the pre-referral checklist to make sure that they've collected sufficient data to firstly narrow down what their concern is, and secondly ensure that they're providing enough information to clearly talk about what is going on with this child. They need to then go to the next scheduled CEARS meeting, and at this time they need to bring with them information that supports their referral. They need to use that data to talk about what their concern is. They need to talk about what interventions or support strategies they have put in place prior to coming. They need to talk about what conversations they've had with family about their concerns. At this point, the CEARS team work together to design an intervention or a support plan to address the concerns that the teacher has raised. This then needs to be documented, and again, back on one school for documenting support plans or interventions, it would be documented as either personalised learning or a support provision. The class teacher, in most cases, is assigned as the case manager for the student. The case manager is defined by the person who spends 80% of the time with this student or is in control of 80% of the communication around this student. And at most times, that's the class teacher. So the class teacher is recording the intervention, making sure that the intervention or the support plan is implemented, and then reviewing it. The review involves looking at what progress has been made and bringing this back to the CEARS committee. When they come back to the CEARS committee, they need to be reviewing a support plan or an intervention every 5 weeks, and that occurs for 3 cycles. So 3 5-week cycles, If little or no progress has been made at that point, then we look at referring this child on. One of the initial stages in the CEARS process is to have contact with the family. The class teacher needs to make sure that the family are aware of the concerns that they have for their student learning. They need to engage with the family and find out if the family have a piece of information that might help inform what's going on for this child in the classroom. It's also important for teachers to recognise that parents play a vital part in making sure that their students are supported at school. So if particular strategies need to be in place in the classroom, perhaps the family can also implement those at home. Family might be able to support an intervention by practicing skills at home with a child. As a school, we need to make sure that we're engaging the parents in the process of supporting their child. As case managers, the class teacher is responsible for initiating contact with the family and then maintaining that contact through the process. If a student has made little or no progress after 3 5-week cycles of interventions, then we need to look at referring them on. So that referral could be to the guidance officer, the speech language pathologist, or to the StEARS team for complex case management. It could be referring the child to have external support through the child and youth mental health team, or it could be about working with the family to support them to engage external agencies such as a referral to the paediatrician or hearing and vision checks through Queensland Health. There are a lot of supports available to both class teachers and heads of campuses to support their CEARS processes. We have for heads of campuses a CEARS flowchart, a campus educationally at-risk students flowchart that steps out what needs to happen, how we document, and what next steps need to occur. To support this, there's also a CEARS matrix which helps heads of campuses identify where their campus is up to and what they need to be doing next to help embed CEARS processes into their campus. For class teachers, we have a number of additional resources. We have how-to guides for how to refer to CEARS, how to develop support provisions and individual curriculum plans. We also have some resources to support the development of interventions. The other resource we have to support CEARS processes are the human resources. We have the student services team who are always happy to work with campuses and class teachers to embed CEARS processes or case manage students or support the case management of students. We want to work as a wraparound team to support all of our children to learn.
So just before we begin the meeting, I'd just like to establish the purpose of the CEARS process. So again, the CEARS process means the Campus Educationally at-Risk Student System. It's there to help us identify students at risk and then use the resources and expertise we've got available at a campus level to provide support to these students. We meet every fortnight to discuss new referrals or review student progress in relation to the interventions or support plans. So before we begin, I'd just like to ask Mrs. Unicombe if you could open our meeting with a prayer.
Yep, can do that. Let us pray, everyone. As we gather here today, we thank you, Papa God, for your presence in our midst. Our children, Lord, are important to us, and we as teachers play an important role in their learning. Give us a clear understanding of the data we've about to unpack. Thank you, Lord, for your blessing. Amen.
And thank you, Mrs. Unicombe. So again, thank you everyone for making the time to be here today to participate in our meeting. Zoe, can I please ask you to record the minutes of the meeting in the CEARS dashboard in One School in the class notes section.
Yes.
As you all know, this is a time for us to work collaboratively to support students at our school. I'd like to start the meeting with some of our new referrals. I've received one school notification of a student in your class, John, and I'd like to start by just confirming that you've spoken to the family of student
Yeah, a
A.
number of times on the phone with Mum or Akka, and also I've met with her once face to face.
Excellent. And so, John, what are some of your concerns for student A?
Probably the biggest one is inappropriate touching. The student quite a physical boy, and apart from the normal physicality as well, often does touching in private parts as well towards the boys. He might hit someone on the backside or in the front parts as well. So definitely that's a concern. And also we know that you've talked to him, we know that you've talked to the whole school, you've talked to him privately, and he continues to do it. When you talk to him, you notice that sometimes his head sort of goes to the side a bit, and he sort of looks to the side a bit, and I'm really concerned that the communication, that he's not really getting the message.
Yeah. You've obviously got some stuff from one school about it, but what are some of the other data you've got around the concerns for student A?
Look. Interestingly, he's got the hearing screening has identified that he's got some issues there, and I've talked to his mum about that. She needs to follow up with that referral to the hospital to further that on.
And he does have an appointment with Australian Hearing.
And he does that, and she's told me that that he's got that appointment with Australian Hearing. Yeah.
Am I right in thinking this is the student that is uncomfortable about going to?
Yeah, that's the same student. Yeah, the student.
Mum feels he'll be reluctant to go to the appointment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that the student has said that the mum has said that he's scared of hospitals. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got some health things, and I guess that obviously there's an issue with the student actually getting to the specialist help.
Yeah, while I'm at it, further data, he's on a PM level of about 4. He's a year 3 student, so really we'd like him around 21, 22 at the end of year 2. So he's on a PM level of 4, and which is a concern as well, yeah.
And I saw that on one school he had an ICP last year.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, and I know, John, you and I have been in close contact about this student, so let's, for the benefit of others that haven't been privy to these conversations, let's talk about, perhaps could you share some of the things that you've tried so far to address some of these problem behaviours?
We've talked about safe touching. We've modelled safe behaviours, so we modelled expectations through the ESCM, not through the ESCM, but through the teaching of explicit positive behaviours. So we've talked about there's a whole class. I've also talked about him with a group of boys as well, privately as well. Also referred him to you from more of a consequence point of view.
Yeah.
And I've also talked to his mum. But I guess the main one is modelling of safe behaviours that we've done.
Yeah.
Are these unsafe behaviours specific to him? The touching, is he the main, or are other boys engaged?
There's a whole
in this
cohort
as well?
of them. There's about 6 or 7 of them in the class, and he's in the middle of it all, perhaps a bit more prominently than some of the other boys as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, just with the student that John's referring to, I recall from last year with the previous class teacher that the child had periods of time across the year where unsafe touching was prevalent. It was mainly directed towards female students, but there were some incidences in March and then the back end of term 3 as well. So it seemed to be last year he went through a bit of a cycle of this. He did sort of bounce out of it, but it definitely came back 2 or 3 times as well. So I guess there's a bit of a past history.
Perhaps there's 2 types of touching. There's the physical sort of touching where he's even this year he hit a girl on the back for when asked why he did it, he just looks at you quite blankly and he can't tell you. But he's hit a girl on the back. But then there's also the other touching where it's in males, not females, males, private parts, of his classmates, And whether it's a game or I'm not sure why he's doing that for, but and when he's asked why, he'll just look at you blankly,
Yeah. So John's spoken a bit about student A and about some things that have been done. Do we have any other perhaps suggestions of strategies or approaches that John and the school could try in terms of supporting student A?
It's tricky, I guess. I think that you've broken up some of the concerns, and we probably need to look at them in that way. So, the hearing, address that, and the poor academic performance could be linked completely to that. So maybe wait and see before we look any further?
And I think it is a wait and see as well, because I've seen some of the progress he's made. He's working a lot one-on-one with Miss teacher aide, and I see that he's making progress there. So he's definitely making progress. Still a long way behind, obviously. I was going to say, what I'm going to trial actually is, I was thinking about this touching business and why do people touch like that for? Obviously there's two types of touching, the private and the thing, and I'm wondering, I hope you don't mind, Dan, but is it I won't hit you in private parts, but is it a physical part? Is it a physical sort of touching that he needs, some blokey sort of male sort of thing? And I thought, what about a handshake? And should we ever go like bang or bang or bang or something like that? You know, will that be something that might appeal to him, and he's going to get that physical sort of stuff out? Yeah. And will that be a need? So I'm going to trial that and see how it goes. That's and another colleague suggested that, and just as a way of possibly that might meet his need, because I always think, you know, why is someone doing that for? Is there some unmet, you know, why would they do it for? Yeah. So I'll try that, and I'll let you guys know.
The StEARS layer of the CEARS system refers to specialists working together to support Tier 3 students. These are students with complex support needs, and they require expert input into interventions and/or support plans. Complex case management involves a multidisciplinary team approach. As a team, we progress verifications, develop interventions and/or support plans that respond to complex need, provide training and support to campus staff to implement these interventions and/or plans, and we monitor student progress. We liaise with external agencies, and we maintain ongoing communication with campus staff, families and external agencies. StEARS team members include guidance officers, speech language pathologists, SWD teachers and heads of special education services. Today we have Sophie, guidance officer, myself as head of special education services, Miss Tammy as SWD teacher and Louise as a speech pathologist. Miss Tammy, for our meeting today, could you open with prayer?
Yes, let us pray. Papa God, we ask your blessing here today in this meeting. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. Okay, team. Today the agenda is we have student A and we have to progress the verification. We need to talk about where we're up to. We have student B. We need a complex case management update on his alternative program. And we also have the upcoming paediatric outreach visit. So we need to go through the list of students with appointments and ensure that we're providing this team with the appropriate information. The final agenda item is a review of the audiograms received from Deadly Ears. Has this information been communicated to campuses and have the support provisions being developed? So the first thing, agenda item 1, Sophie, student A, please.
Certainly. So where I'm up to with student A is I've got the basic facts partially completed, so I've yet to progress the rest of that and finalize it. I need to collect some more information about how this student is engaging in community, so looking particularly at the engagement in cultural events, so whether that's a strength, something that we might look at to pursue an interest. I wasn't able to meet with the family on my last visit, so.
But actually, Sophie, I'm going to that island, so I can actually meet and sit with that family if you like.
Oh,
try and get some of that information.
That would be great. Can I send you some of the questions that
absolutely
want answered?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Louise. Great.